appreciate you all making the trip out here very much. Thank you. So, we're doing this event for you guys. There's a lot of exciting technologies that we're going to talk about today, but our job is to really simplify things and hear from you. So this event is for you. So we're going to have a group discussion today, followed by some breakout sessions. And what we really hope that you guys leave with is clarity, number one, on just what the hell we're talking about, what these technologies even mean, how they apply to your business, and then secondly, confidence. You know, going back to your teams, other department heads, and just feeling confident in how to leverage these technologies and when to implement and what it might be. So there's no shortage of experts in this room, I promise you. So there's no one here that will not have an answer, however weird your question might be, I promise. So the whole time, everything we go through today, we encourage questions, feedback. We want to know what your struggles and challenges are. And we're going to bring a panel of experts up on here to talk about some stuff. So we got Tony Burns, the Director of Channel Sales from Observe AI, Brandon Knight, Head of Global Channel Customer Experience, Dan Petcher, Channel Sales Engineer, and Chase Tarkenton from Unifor. Come on up. Thank you, guys. Just so you know, the C3ers that are in the room, the other consultants, we got Drew Close. Drew, come put your hand up. Colin Medell. We have our technical engineering lead, Steve Makaitis. We got Austin Lacey over there. What's up, Austin? And our lead CX engineer, the big cat, Mr. Joe Mock. So if you guys have any questions about C3 or you know who's who, that's it, guys. So thank you all for being here. So just what we want to do here in just this first session is we just want to baseline some things and kind of frame up the day. And hopefully what this will do is just open your minds up a little bit and lead to more stimulating, engaging conversations when you guys have your breakout sessions. But this is a quote just to start things off, that the best experience a customer has becomes the new benchmark for all customer experiences moving forward. Because why not? Right? There's too many options out there. In Costco, you can literally go buy a Christmas tree right now, decorate it, break it, and then return it in January and get your money back. I mean, the customer service is exceptional. I mean, we don't do that. We rock real Christmas trees in the Warhand household, but you can do that. So Spotify, does anyone use Spotify? I mean, it's amazing. The release radar, the Discover Weekly, the way all the music is like curated to your genres that you listen to, and the daily mixes. And I can't think of anything that actually pulled me away and get me to subscribe to another type of music. And I mean, Amazon, do I need to talk about how great Amazon is? I don't think I need to, but if they increase the annual subscription by 20, maybe even 30%, would you guys cancel your subscription? No, yeah, no, probably not. So how do you measure CX? Customer experience, how do you measure that today? Is there anyone in the audience that's willing to share how they actually measure their customer experience? Yes.
I would say for our company and where we are in maturity, I would say we do passive.
Okay.
There's tools, we have partners, but I would say that we're very reactive and passive. For our company.
What are you able to capture?
Loyalty, perception, relationship, NPS scores, example. We measure a lot of numbers.
Okay. It's not bad. It's pretty good practice there. Do you feel like you can capture everything?
No.
Okay. Anybody else care to share how they just measure customer experience today? There's no wrong answers, by the way. We're all just kind of here to share ideas. We want you to pick up on what the experts know, what they see, but also your peers, right? What else you guys are seeing in the industry? Post-call surveys. I mean, come on. Really? You know, how many of those do you actually get? And is that really the data that you want to go off of to continue to build out your future practice? So that's something that I think is critical in this day and age because the competition is so fierce. It's never been easier to buy something from your competitor today than it's been in the past. So the ability to measure customer experience I think is more critical than ever. And hopefully that's why some of you guys are here today. So, like I said a few minutes ago, we want to simplify things. Okay, we're not here to talk in like highly technical terms, because the idea here is to break things down. This is probably, I don't know, I'm sure everybody has been to an event like this before. I'm sure half of you probably met with half of the vendors that are here today sponsoring our event. And you probably see the value in the products and services, but I think where, at least from what we see observing as C3 consultants, is a lack of clarity of how you go about implementing these technologies and when you go about doing it. This sounds really cool. I see how it would benefit my company. We got a lot on the roadmap and there's no room in the budget. And this seems like a big undertaking. I don't want to put my neck on the line, whatever it might be. So what I'd like to talk about with you guys today more is how companies are adopting these technologies. And artificial intelligence is just, you know, it's one of our jobs at C3 to constantly do training on new technology. And this is one of the words that I'm just kind of becoming numb to, because I just hear it way too often. And it's like, well, what does it mean? How do we apply it? And that's one of the, where I kind of want to start here. So Dan from Dialpad, let's just start with you. In terms of, because I know you guys have made a couple key acquisitions in Cooper, Core AI. You guys have also made a big splash in the UCaaS space, unified communications. So the competition's fierce, but people are buying from Dialpad. When it comes to artificial intelligence, where do you see like a traditional legacy on-prem customer? Where are they most commonly starting their journey with Dialpad as it relates to AI?
Sure. So everybody, I'm Dan Petcher. I'm with Dialpad, but to that end, to answer the question, I think one of the things that Dialpad has done over the last couple of years is it's taken a really hard look in the mirror at things that we were not doing well, or what we didn't have focuses on. Obviously, this UC is an entryway, but for those that want to jump into AI, I think immediately, we have a self-service sort of deflection, self-service bot, we call it, that is able to handle situations and answer questions in a self-service manner, because we found that over 2/3 of our customers preferred that method as opposed to necessarily getting on the phone with somebody right away. Yes, of course, you can escalate, then speak to somebody, but being able to find the answers yourselves and then take that time for that contact center agent or what have you to be able to then handle the more serious escalations, we found to be of extreme value to some of our customers. So being able to sort of get our foot in the door that way with this self-service implementation, and then let them sort of get a taste and then come over later with some of the other pieces that we offer.
What about the rest of you? Justin, where are most companies beginning as it relates to AI? What are you seeing? Any common trends in that space? Feel free to ask the rock.
I guess we'll go that way. Tony Burns, Observe AI. Before I go on and answer that question, I do want to give you one credit. You know what? This is like the most diverse panel I've sat on ever, right? I almost feel like we met in jury duty and decided we are going to form a team and solve the contact center problems. Right. But going back to diversity, what AI does for it, it gives you a diversity of services, right? It allows for us, Observe, to go into those customers who are a little bit behind, right? You know, the pandemic took away what they wanted to do, so they haven't really stepped forward and gone into the cloud. Our AI gives them a little bit of a taste to kind of sit there and go, let's see what it can do. How can we increase sales? How can we increase revenue? And that's sort of what we do a little bit differently. And that's what AI can do for, you know, customers just stepping into that scenario.
Yeah, huge disruptors in that space. Chase, I want to ask you because Unifor, again, let's talk about someone that's made major capital investments, right? We can't dump all our hardware and go all cloud contact center yet, but we want more automation. We want lower wrap time, whatever it may be. We want more automation. So what is Unifor able to do with those legacy customers that are not ready to just dump all their hardware? Absolutely. How are you able to work with them just in the very beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you don't know Unifor, conversational automation and AI, that word that we don't want to talk about too much, but you know, when you think about automation, you think about AI, think of the use cases that you're already trying to tackle today. And instead of trying to take a revolutionary approach to that, just level it up a little bit layering on just a little bit of capability, automation, AI intelligence can actually give you the results that you're looking for. So with us, we plug into many of the legacy systems that are out there. We don't try and replace, we try to level up the intelligence that's there. One of the benefits to businesses in this regard is it's relatively simple to get there. I'm not going to say that it's easy. It's not easy. You have to be committed to the approach. But adding intelligence, whether it's voice and visual to self-service, or leveraging unstructured data so that you can give customers the experience they want in a very rich setting. That's really our objective. But impacting digital front door, self-service, could be in call and helping the agent to be more effective. And so we partner with everyone in this room right now. And the objective is really to say, okay, what are you doing today? How can we make it a little bit better? But in terms of attacking that, how do we give you much bigger impact overall? So
I just heard, it was on Tiffany yesterday from Unifor. She told me I'm talking about Jiffy Lube.
yeah, you
Jiffy Lube, they don't even have a customer, they don't even have a contact center, right? They have individual locations throughout the country, but they realize that more than half of the time people call the Jiffy Lube, they just want to know the hours of operation.
Yeah.
Right, so you want to finish the rest of the story?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm glad she told you about that one. So, you know, when you think about, we just look at self-service as an example. So everyone's very familiar with that. Everyone takes a different approach to it. Jiffy Lube came to us and said, listen, we don't have a call center, but we're missing hundreds of thousands of calls over, you know, I don't remember what the period of time was, but it was significant enough to where the CEO went to the CMO and said, fix this. Because two things are occurring, lost sales and just bad brand experience overall. And so what we were able to help them do is say, well, let's just start with one use case. Okay, don't boil the ocean, start small, let's drive impact, and then maybe you expand from there. So the number one intent that they had where folks are calling in saying, how much oil does my car need? And what does it cost? And so just by tapping into the database and calculating those numbers, and cross-referencing it with vehicles, they have this rich experience now to where when customers call in, they don't have to talk to an agent. If you've ever been to a Jiffy Lube or any type of auto servicing station, someone's on the register, they're talking to customers in person, and they're also on the phone, and the phone's ringing uncontrollably. Well, now they can handle all of that. And the great thing about it is they know that when someone calls in, if they come to the store within 2 weeks, in most cases, it's a sales conversion. And I would encourage you, however you go about trying to solve for some of these challenges using automation or the different products and tools that are out there, think about how you tie it back to the outcome, right? Jiffy Lube is not a big organization, you know, by any measure, but they're very sophisticated still in looking at the technology and how they get the outcome that they're trying to drive. And, you know, the new technology that's out there allows them to achieve that. So it's a pretty exciting use case from our standpoint.
Yeah, very cool. And I feel like a lot of people don't know that they can leverage these technologies unless they have a big call center or something like that. So we're not going to move on to the next topic without talking to Brandon real quick. B9, the godfather of contact center. Sorry, that's just what I call it. Brandon used to run contact centers and has consulted for some of the largest logos in the world for digital transformation projects. Sorry, that's another word that people use way too much.
Right.
But maybe pre-2020, when it comes to AI, because it's been around for a while, in terms of the ease of adoption, and maybe some of the early adopters and how they were leveraging AI for things like automation or deeper levels of intelligence. What does it look like now? What have you observed over the last, let's just say, 5 years?
That's a good question. And actually, I want to do something real quick. Leaving the C3 people and the vendors out. If you're a customer in here, raise your hand if in the last 3 years you've heard the term AI, artificial intelligence. Now, watch this. Leave your hand up if you can tell me what it is and how it works. Okay, that's the problem with AI right now. Is it's a term. You know how we like to do in our industry. We throw these things out there. And people really have no idea what they are. The wild thing is, and I'm not going to get too technical, but there's actually very little AI in our market. There's a lot of machine learning, but there's very few people in this room that don't even understand that conversation. So I'm not going to go there. I will tell you though, that the early AI was just what we thought, right? It was like little chatbots and I'm, as he said, I'm more of a customer. I am at Zoom now, but I have run contact centers literally all over the world. And if you have a chatbot, you know that chatbot is in a knowledge base, right? And if you're in a contact center right now, tell me, how much fun is it to keep a knowledge base up to date? Right? We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. So, but that's what it was in the beginning. It was chatbots and you know, they could go a certain point until you get to a dead end or whatever like that. And then we've evolved a little bit by we allow it to access external databases and stuff like that, but that's still stagnant data. I think some of the cool things that are coming along now is AI that is actually learning a little bit. So you have the database, but we also are seeing now AI that's tracking other people's calls. One of the coolest things that I've seen is there's a system that can actually look at your top 10% of your agents, right? So imagine you could take the top 10% of your agents and have something monitor what they do, what they say, and what they access, and then share that information with all your other agents in real time, right? To help them go through the call. It basically says, Susie's your best agent. So the AI will say, hey, based on what I'm hearing this customer say, Susie would have asked this. You know, it's kind of like what would you do, but not really, right? So that is some AI that I think is impressive. The other AI that I like better is we know AI on the front end, which is chatbots and things like that. AI on the back end, I think, is way more powerful and will exceed what the front end is doing now. So AI on the back end is actually helping the agent be better, actually helping that specialist find information, share information, figure out what the person's talking about, and helping them deliver a better customer experience. And I think that's where you'll see real AI go.
All right, so before we move off this topic, I want to challenge you guys, because again, how do you go about adopting it? You know, what's the most practical way to embrace this technology without it disrupting business operations? This is a jump ball for anyone that wants to speak to this. And also, if anyone in the audience has any questions around this topic, just raise your hand and we'll make Joe. Big Cat?
I do have a question. You kind of hit on it, Brandon, so thank you. What's the difference between automation and AI or machine learning? So, like you said, some people might not know what AI is. What is automation compared to AI? Are they hand in hand?
Automation is more exactly what it sounds like. It's either it can either be robotics or it could be an actual automation of a process, which means something an agent used to do. Now you can have a system. Automation can be as simple as an API or a WebEx or an interface call that gives a person their check account balance without them having to talk to a person, or changes a passcode or a PIN or something like that, or even automate something on a website. You know what I mean, that an agent used to do, versus real AI has to be continually learning. It has to, like he said, it has to get all the data, it has to use all the data, but then it should be extrapolating ideas or concepts based on what it knows. So a regular system, if somebody calls in, you have insurance, you call your insurance company, you were in an accident, right? And so you call. Regular automation can look in and say, hey, this person filed a claim, they had an accident, right? AI will listen to the conversation and let's say you're asking about tires. AI will say, oh, this person had an accident, they reported a claim 2 weeks ago, now they're talking on the phone about tires, they probably want to know if that's covered, and say that to the agent. You see what I'm saying? So it's a slight difference, but it's that extrapolation from the information that makes AI valuable. And as far as adopting it, like I said, I think I'm going to say something that's going to sound really weird from a vendor, because I can sit here and tell you the differentiators for Zoom. All these guys consider differentiators for their products. Quite frankly, it doesn't mean a damn thing. Okay, because those are the differentiators of the vendor, but the only ones that matter are the ones that are differentiators for what you're doing. So I can tell you how to adopt AI, but if it's not a use case for you, who cares? You know, so I will tell you what I used to tell people when I was running contact centers globally. I don't care how that shit works. I don't. Okay. I want to know, what does the impact look like for my agent and what does the experience look like for the customer? How you figure it out is on you. So if you want to adopt AI, I will tell you simply master what you want your agent experience to be and learn how to explain that, right? Or bring C3 and then let them help you figure it out, okay? And then they'll tell you how to explain that. They'll tell you how to do better. And then AI ends up being a part of that overall solution, then good for you. right? Because you're gonna accomplish your goal, so.
But so my last question though, again, how do you kind of like dip your toe in the water, right? Where I don't have to go to the executive board, get budget approved, put it on the roadmap. We have like a very specific use case that's coming to mind as a department head as to where I could see a benefit in doing this. Can I just get a couple licenses? Can I just test this out with a few people, or does this have to be a huge lift and shift? Let's jump off.
I didn't know where this is going. But yeah, so basically what we like to do, and going back to kind of building something Brandon had said, is that it's really in that discovery, right? That's where people like you at C3 really are talking to those customers and going, hey, you know what? We want to see what you do. What do you have? Those little, please, as any customer out here, have that discovery questionnaire and call with them, because that's where we know. And that's where we start thinking about POV, proof of value, right? We come in and go, hey, Mr. Customer, why don't we think about 1 or 2 or 3 so we can try it out just to see how these agents benefit. Let's see how we can increase revenue, how to drive the CX experience for them. And we do that all the time.
So what do you need? Just a couple, one scoping call? I mean, what's required on my end?
Well, unfortunately, you don't want just one, because you can't get any data from just one. We really want more, at least like 30 days, right? We want 30 days. We want as many agents as we can take.
In planning for rolling out said service.
Correct. Well, no, not only planning, but actually testing it out. The proof is actually in the pudding. I hate that phrase. But the proof is in the pudding, right? With that 30 days of actually seeing what's going on with their actionable data, they can in turn see if this is actually worth it, right? And that's what you have to kind of experience AI and see it, right? As we specialize in post-call analytics, that's sort of how you can drive revenue and CX retention.
So this is where it ties in, because there's this crazy shift that's happening. These technologies are more available. There are more options than ever, and they're easier to adopt than ever. So where it doesn't require a lot of time or financial commitment. Meanwhile, on the other hand, like post-pandemic, apparently no one wants to work anymore. I don't know why. I'm not an economist. I'm sure if you want to pay, contact center agent a couple $100 grand, I'm sure you can find plenty of people to take that job. But for the lower wages, is anyone having problems hiring staff right now?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a real thing, and you have to keep your business running, right? So the early adopters, the ones that have the ability to pivot or budget, or were just willing to take a risk on the front end, they're leveraging things like robotic process automation, artificial intelligence to automate the mundane, mindless tasks, because you don't want your top players doing that stuff. You don't want your most talented people taking calls just to tell someone their hours of operation. And better yet, now you've freed up time for your top talent to go focus on things that matter. Maybe it's acquiring a big client, maybe it's solving a problem for a huge customer, resolving an issue, or helping with an escalation. So the whole workforce right now, this has been necessitated, where it's like you have to find a way to automate the simple stuff. Because even if you have a top 10, even if you have enough talented people to do the basic things, they're not gonna want to work there, because they're gonna want to do something more meaningful and fulfilling, right? So is there anyone else who's having this challenge with not just hiring people, but retaining people? Is that a problem for anyone? Where you spend like 6 months training them and then they just leave because they get a better job offer? Is that an issue for anybody? Yeah, it sucks, right? So what's that?
I say it's an issue for a lot of people. What the irony of it is, though, attrition has always been the number one issue in contact centers. Even when we're in brick and mortar now, it's the same. Attrition is the number one issue facing all contact centers. What's interesting is the reason changed, because before COVID, it was this is a sucky job, right? And my supervisor gets on my nerves, so I don't want to do this anymore, right? Those are the number 2 reasons that people love contact centers. Now, and back then, right, I was managing contact centers doing how we used to reward people by giving them casual days or letting them have days off if they wanted, right? Well, they're gonna permanently have casual days now. They're all home, right? So there's nothing we can do. So now you have people who used to be, well, this job sucks, I'm gonna go get another one. Now they're like, shit, I'm home already. I don't have to worry about anything. I'm getting paid. Now I, as an agent, can be selective. So now I'm not leaving because it sucks. Now I'm leaving because I can go to somebody else. I'm already, you know what I mean? I'm already here. I'm already doing great. So attrition is still high. The reason changed, and that requires, now we're requiring customers to be more focused on how they take care of their agents, which seems like a duh. No offense to anyone in this room, but typical contact centers, the agents are customer facing, the most important impact to your customer. And they're usually the most underpaid, under-supported, overwhelmed people in the entire company. And that's changing, and rightly so.
Yeah. James?
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I think the key to the customer experience is through, it starts with your employee experience. Being able to quantify what it is that they're doing every day, right? That's where job description comes from, and being able to transcribe these conversations, find out, how do you go to market against these competitors, and then what these battle cards that can be populated for them are to enable them to do their job day to day, to make sure that they're getting the right recognition through these conversations for solving problems. There's different ways that AI can be applied on the back end to pull these things into your everyday decisions on your staff, because if you're not seeing into these conversations, you don't know what they're talking about. You can't reward them. You can't incentivize them based on, maybe this was an upsell opportunity. What is the next best step? And then rewarding them appropriately when that actually happens. I think you're absolutely right. They're on the front line, but are we giving them, particularly being remote? My first inside sales job, I was in a bullpen with a bunch of people, and I just learned through osmosis through the people that were around me. That doesn't happen anymore. How can you get that information through someone's screen that is physically miles away from you?
Just as an observation too, with all the different vendors that we have to get educated on, that our clients look at, is simplicity, the GUI, the graphics, the user interface, right? So we'll build a short list based on a client's requirements and success criteria. And there might be one vendor that has more capabilities than the other four. But if it doesn't look like it was built in the last decade, then the feedback that we get from our customers and department heads are saying my people just quit because they'll think I'm giving them legacy technology that's hard to understand, and they'll just get discouraged and they'll quit, or it'll take them a year to figure it out and become highly productive. So the coolest thing I've seen in especially just unified communications is it's simple. Zoom and Dialpad, their product is simple. You can give a 60-year-old person a Zoom phone license today, and they'll understand how to navigate it, make a call, send a text, get in the chat, whatever it might be. Not to mention the administrative hours go down by at least 90% compared to managing an on-prem environment. So it makes it easier for employees to get ramped up and trained, but they're also just happier. If they can use the tech easier and they can function better, and therefore they're happier, they can perform better. And that cascades down when they communicate with their customers. It's a real thing, right? A happy employee, you can feel it. When you call customer care, you're talking a nice person, and they just they're just trying to level with you. I mean, it feels good. You end up having a good interaction, problem usually gets solved, and then you go on about your merry way. But you can tell, when you get a customer service agent, they're in a bad mood or whatever, that rubs off on you, even through the phone. It's just a bad thing. But a lot of times, it's because they're frustrated with the tech that they're using, or they have to, swap between 12 different systems just to do their job.
Yeah, I was gonna give a use case that we actually had this. So in contact center, it's funny, there's a new thing that's out there, it's called quiet quitting. I don't know if you guys have heard it, but contact center is the only place that quiet quitting doesn't happen. Because if they quit, no one answers the phone, right? No one takes it, no one does it. So one of our use cases that we had a problem with that is, can I say it? Oh, Bob's here, so I'll say it, I don't care. It's a customer, they make steaks out of Nebraska, right? That ain't home. Yeah, I know, right? Peyton Manning says it a lot. And what happened is that they had to figure out how to get their people, because they have versatile, times a day where they have part of the year, they hire 12,000 people, right? And they needed to be able to get these people onboarded quickly, right? And with AI using the back end, they could figure out who their top people were and help those people and figure out who their low people were quickly, because they embedded AI, they could see the sentiment, the tonality, what was happening in the contact center, right? So going back to that whole quiet quitting thing, they were able to take that away because they could see who was good, who was bad, who was doing what they were supposed to, and use those good people to kind of drive the other people and be better.
That's great.
You know, just to build on that real quick, I mean, it's one part technology, but it's also just how we treat people. It's how we coach them, it's how we develop them. And I think some segments of business for many years allowed us to ignore that. We had to talk about it, but we didn't have to really do it. Or some companies did it and some didn't. You know, Gallup says that for millennials, 60% right now consider training and development the #1 benefit. And so we get these great insights from all this technology, but it's like, what do we do with it? And that's where it's one part, you gotta have the tools, you have to have the insights and all that's important. And in addition to that, you have to act on it and you have to care. So if there is one good thing that's come out of this trend, I do believe it's focused, it's requiring some businesses to stop and say, what are we doing to train folks? What is the career path for an agent? When's the last time we promoted an agent into a different role? Do they want to stay in this particular division or do they want to move into something different? How do we help them to get there? And we had that conversation with them. So marrying those two together, I think, is key. Because if you do one without the other, you may not get the results that we're looking for.
So we have so many analytics at C3, we've looked at hundreds of companies, and this is from the last 4 years and thousands of statistics. We always try to boil it down for executives because you guys have enough, or department heads, you have enough on your mind, right? So it's like, what do I really need to walk away with? We really boil it down to just 3 points, right? And it's not saying you have to invest in CX right now, but it's just, why not? It's easier to do than ever. You can test it in a very small area. You can put it on a credit card and it'd be, you know, a couple $100 just to test it out in a certain area. AI, automation to act faster, AI to act smarter, and self-service to act easier. Again, it's being necessitated, especially because there's shift in the workforce. So I'll give you one example of one of our customers who's not in this room. A large call center, and they manage 26 different retail brands. That's one contact center, and they've spent millions of dollars and thousands of hours building what they call scorecard, because their costs go up when they have to talk to a human. Once a call actually gets to a customer service agent, that's when our costs start really going up. So they want as much self-service and automation as possible. So they built this scorecard, they invested millions of dollars, and they came to the precise conclusion that their repeat caller was about 35%. Of the hundreds of millions of calls going in their call center, 35% of those were repeat callers. So what? Like, okay, now what do you do, right? You know what's happening. But when I say AI to act smarter with tools like Unifor and Observe AI, now you actually know why it's happening. And that is a total game changer, an absolute game changer, because now you know why you have 35% repeat callers, and you can actually do something about it. So before, with like legacy solutions like CallMiner, I'm sure some of you larger customers, you know, have used CallMiner, maybe it's your current or past employer. What used to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to implement and adopt, you'd maybe be capturing what, 10, 20% of all the calls in the contact center, and then you got to listen to them and score them. Whereas this, you just plug it in and it just goes and it tells you 100% of the calls, what's happening. And most importantly, why. So you start to see these trends, and you can say of those 35% repeat callers, 80% of them are calling because they have a question about their order status, shipping. It's like, okay, well, now you can implement some sort of automated solution to send an SMS text to say, hey, here's your tracking number, here's when your product's going to be there, and you just reduce your call count by millions throughout the year. So just a profound impact by minimal investments, really.
And to that end as well, there's a sort of infamous use case in Dialpad also, with our real-time transcription being able to analyze after the fact. We had a company, a retailer of high-end footwear that got a hunch because he had to jump on the phones one day for the call center and started hearing these stories anecdotally from the team, but then also heard himself when he got on the phone that there was a certain request for a product they just did not offer. So he set up a filter, ran it for 90 days, the whole fiscal quarter, and found that there were 60,000 requests for this product that they did not offer. They had to pivot and offer something else, or say, you know, our competitor offers it, here you go on your way. They made a business decision. They took it to the executive leadership, and now it is one of their highest grossing products, one of their highest margin products. And if you go to their website, it's men's, women's, and then square toe boots. So like it made a fundamental difference being able to capture that. Being able to capture that data, they can take action on what their customers were asking for. They ultimately did not have a product. What's that?
Right, so instead of just sending all your customers a special on women's shoes next month, we actually have the intelligence of what our customers are buying. So if I bought a pair of bed sheets, you can send me a promo on pillows or a mattress or a bed frame, instead of just one message to millions of people and just like, oh, we'll see what we get back. Right, the ability to curate that from a business development standpoint is just incredibly powerful. So. And then lastly, the biggest thing that we noticed is building a framework around how to go about adopting these types of solutions and just building out your future digital CX practice. So we'll talk about that here in a quick second. So out of all the feedback we get as of what companies are struggling with, they really boil down to these 4 things. And this is over the last 2 years. So hiring and retaining talent is harder than ever. Too many disparate technologies, right? So, and we all know, especially like in IT, there can be a lot of turnover, right? So typically, historically, what happens is you buy a pointed product for a specific use case, and then you just keep doing that for like a decade. And now you have all of this stuff and you're trying to get it to integrate with each other and talk to each other. But what ends up happening is you have like disparate points of data and insights on your customers. They're all in these little pockets and it's not really talking to each other. And I think a legacy customer doesn't have the ability to look at Tony Burns as a customer and see what he said on Yelp, on Facebook page, every email and phone call interaction, and profile him as a whole at a holistic level, and then sell him accordingly. I mean, having the ability to do that is very exciting for the customers that have adopted these technologies, and they won't go back. It's normally like, I can't believe I've gone this long without having it, and I'm never going back. This is awesome. What else can we do with these things? So, too much time maintaining poorly legacy systems. That's been a problem for 30 plus years, right? Like a lot of people, they want to transform their CX practice, but they just don't know where to start. Is there anyone in this room that would want to add to this list? Like when you think of like the biggest inhibitor, why we haven't got to this desired future state that we want, what might be some of the biggest roadblocks?
Actually, I'll add to that. So the poorly performing legacy systems, but legacy people. To be honest with those, we've been here, we've done it, we've always done it, this is how it's gonna be, we're gonna keep it, why change, why reinvent the wheel? That lack of kind of that, this lack of foresight, strategic vision, and they're in a position to make a decision. Yeah, no, that's a robot.
Anybody else?
They cover that in the digital transformation, the process you talked about. In a lot of cases, it's because if you have legacy, if you have, and this is not, I mean, so you guys not hear me? If you have, and this is not against anyone, but if you have Avaya or Cisco or Mitel, you don't have Avaya and IT people. You have an Avaya person. You have a Cisco person. And that's the challenge in that, because you have people that went to get multiple certifications, they became an expert in this technology, and this is how they got promoted. This is why they run their little corner of your IT within your organization. And the reason you have them be resistant is because nobody explained to them what their job was going to be after you got this new technology. So you have to start there. You have to explain them what's in it for me, let them know what their future is going to be. And then they'll be a little bit, more likely to listen in. But in most of the consulting engagements that we've done in that case, we find that the IT person just hasn't figured out what their future is yet. So they're resistant, as anybody would be.
I think that's a great point too, because we do run into companies that say, well, my clientele is 60 and old, maybe an eyeglass company. And they like calling in. But what about the people that are 40 that will eventually be 60? So I'm 48, I like to text, I'd rather text and call. At one point, I will be a customer that's 60, but I'm used to texting.
Exactly.
So these legacy companies, these legacy thought processes that everyone wants to call in, it's just not true. So you do have to get ahead of that.
Yeah.
It's disruptive and it's uncomfortable. And people like legacy people that have been there for a long time don't want to see their baby change. Because they designed it, the system that's in place now, they don't want to see it change. And they have the ear of the C-suite that says it's gonna cost a lot of money and we just don't.
It's great, that's great feedback. Do you think it's more of like a, like pride thing, you know, like, like you said, this is my baby and I'm proud of it, or the thought of like trying to learn about how to adopt a new platform makes my head hurt.
Yes.
It's disruption. When I was running a contact center, I hated getting people off the phone just to go to a meeting. Okay, because my agents are on the phone, that is volume, that is money. So, and even if the technology changed, a simple thing, like if we went from aux to idle, just explaining that to an agent, y'all know what I'm talking about. Just explaining that to an agent, that's a whole meeting, that's a whole training, right? So now you're talking, you want to change like the whole technology? I'm gonna own up to this, okay, because I'm older. I was the guy where the contact center system was 2 doors down from my office. I could go in there and do the punch down, the blue and white wires. We had car batteries as backup. They were in the lower, okay? Understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I used to do that. So when people used to come in and talk about, oh, this new tech, I'm not gonna show you the finger I showed them, okay? But just because the concept of it is initially overwhelming.
Yeah.
Because I'm running a contact center with thousands of people and we run at 150 miles an hour every day. And just talking about change is enough to upset them. You know, so I that's why I think that these conversations are important.
There's a fallacy that everybody want to change. Here's an example. Everybody will, I think, everybody, yeah. So one of the biggest changes that was strategically important and impactful to the business was manual checks versus direct deposit, right? Some folks, the early adopters, saw that I can actually get my money deposited in the bank. You look it up and see it there, even before everybody else gets paid. Direct deposit, right? Other folks, my dad was one of them, right? He's gone now, but he was the guy that, I want to go to my supervisor, I want to grab that manual check, I want to go to the bank, I want to sign it, I want to hand it to the teller, right? And he walks out of the bank, feeling comfortable that my money's safe. in the bank. That's what he always did. Yeah. So it's a balance that you're going to change. It's the change that's going to benefit them. They can see it, they can feel it, it's tangible. Everybody's getting raises every year, right? That's a change. So it's how we spin it.
Yeah.
Right? And the fact that maybe for my dad's example, I like to show them, hey, Dad, here, I'm working wherever, I got paid. Yeah, hey, sure, my balance went up.
I would say I could take that
Right.
time that you took, like getting your check, going to the bank, putting it down, going home, spend that time fishing.
Yeah.
Don't spend it going to the bank. That's crazy.
I
Yeah.
didn't,
Value of that trade-off.
Right.
It's a trade-off between that warm and fuzzy, physically going through the process versus selling on the lag time, the latency, or whatever, the pain point is around the manual process, right?
Yeah.
On-prem versus cloud,
right,
yeah, cloud visibility, cost. So for the company, the value for them is obviously, you don't have to pay people, you have to pay third-party vendors to print out these checks.
Yeah.
You get it in the mail, you get a phone call to the call center, and you get paid.
yeah.
So I think it changes the balance in terms of like, you don't want to change, that's not,
Right.
you gotta sell.
Yes, totally.
That's such a great example. And I think to Brandon's point too, though, it's also some of the physical aspect of it, the blood, sweat and tears that you put into having to, when something goes wrong, you've trained these people, you've given the certifications to manage this equipment, and then they're like, all of a sudden, that's not gonna be a part of it anymore. Like you said, what's in it for me and how can I get something out of this transition? So.
My dad called me the other day, all frustrated, he's like, Kyle, your mother and I are trying to rent a movie on Netflix. Well, then,
Yeah.
first thing, can't rent a movie on Netflix.
Can you fax that back?
Yeah, so I'll say if you have, 50, 100, even a couple hundred employees, it's easier to adopt this at an organizational level, but what we're seeing the most effective approach in the enterprise space is plug it in somewhere for a specific reason. Okay, because it proves itself out. There's minimal investment, minimal time investment. Let it prove itself out, and then other areas of the business start to see the benefits, and it's easier to scale from there. So in the enterprise space specifically, we're not seeing a 100% lift and shift in the entire contact center digital CX space. So, but you have to start somewhere, right? What makes the most sense, you know? So, yeah. So I didn't see your name, sir, but when we talk about the biggest challenges, you actually teed it up for me perfectly, because it's a people problem, right? You know, I used to say like politics or like disparate, like siloed departments or bureaucracy or maybe even ego, like this is my baby. It's a problem. It's a challenge because you have, you know, operations that cares about, you know, their ACD and their workforce management solution. You have sales that cares about, you know, the SMS or the outbound, the outreach. You have customer service that cares about quality assurance and quality management. And these people, rightfully so, should be entitled to be the major stakeholders for those types of technologies, absolutely. But the problem that we observe is it just happens randomly on an individual case basis. And then customer service will implement a new quality assurance and quality management solution. And then IT and sales and operations, they're all trying to work with it and get it to integrate with the systems. And you're trying to get an apple to talk to an orange and a bowl of spaghetti. It's a big problem. This has been happening for 30 years. This is nothing new, right? So
How often do you fall victim to a situation where you're guilty by association because somebody tried to deploy it like it earlier and it didn't work, and that they're throwing their hand in?
right? Yeah, that's another thing. Like, who wants to put their neck out there? Right? I mean, who's going to be behind this if it fails? Right? Whose fault is it going to be? So some of you IT folks out there that operate in the public cloud, you probably know of a cloud COE, Center of Excellence, right? Because not too long ago, it was the Wild West in cloud infrastructure. You have the dev team that's just spinning up instances. There's no security or policies around it. Costs are out of control. And just like cybersecurity, we have to build some sort of framework so that as a company, we at least know from a general standpoint of what our best practices are going to be, right? And we built the same thing here at C3. We have built a digital CX COE, Center of Excellence. And what it does is it doesn't take away the decision-making power of any of these department heads. Quite the opposite, it actually empowers them. So all these different departments can still have a say on the different technologies that are going into the digital CX practice, but based on your business, how you make money, what your ideal customer is, what your competition looks like, what your margin looks like, whether you're an organically built company or you're in the M&A business. Based on how you are as a business, your requirements, your future success criteria, we actually are helping our clients build a framework that gives them some sort of compass so they at least know how to go forward. And what it's actually doing is breaking down those silos and making it a lot easier for these technologies to talk to each other, to get holistic analytics on people, but also scaled and be flexible and pivot. And we do that through what we're calling our C3 CX workshop. So we do business focus groups. We'll talk to people in the trenches that are interfacing with your customers or your prospects and find out what their day looks like, everything. We'll do a secret shopper experience. So that same retail customer, they also have a collections department and we would buy their product, but I even went into their collections department, evaluated the collections process. That's how much we care. I will default on my credit for you guys. Okay, that's the level that we're running to go to. Okay. Those of you who know C3, we have a very, very thorough, highly effective and efficient vendor evaluation process, but that comes long after we actually know what we're trying to achieve. So, and then a CX transformation roadmap, because we might identify that you want more automation and self-service and AI in these various areas, but can't do it all at once. Most often you can't do it all at once. So when does it make sense to implement these technologies and how can we get you to that future state? However long it takes, but how can we do this without affecting business operations and making sure that you guys are still running and functioning and making money? And then the finance side of things is a big piece too, right? Because someone in operations, right, IT might identify that we want to buy Observe AI, Unifor, Dialpad, Zoom, what have you. But it gets hard to show the ROI because a lot of the value of these technologies, they're soft costs. right? Not too long ago, it was like, well, we pay this much for this product, and this new one we want to buy is this much, and here's the delta. You know, we either save money or it's a cost increase. So we actually have a thorough process to break this down, where we gather up to 75 different data points. And if you don't know all of them, or you don't capture them in your environment today, that's fine, because we have industry averages for everything. And then with that information, whoever's leading that initiative can comfortably walk into the boardroom, talk to their CFO with conservative estimates and say, by implementing this technology, here's what our ROI looks like. Because we're no longer solving just IT problems, we're solving business problems. These are business conversations. And it's not about how much this technology costs, it's about how it's going to impact the business. So this is an example of a C3 customer. And the investment that they made on these newer cloud technologies increased their fixed vendor expense by about 5x. So they went from spending 30K a month to 150K a month, right? Sounds like a big change, right? But they wanted more automation. They wanted more call containment. They wanted less calls going to a human. And with tools like automation and AI, we actually reduced the amount of calls. We increased the call containment by over 30%. So it looked like they were increasing their vendor spend, but with these very conservative estimates, we were actually able to predict they're going to save $20 million in 3 years as a business. And by the way, this is cut in half. So all of the estimates we had projected, we actually cut it in half because this was the most conservative customer you'll ever meet. Super old school in every sense of the word. So that way, these teams can have more confidence in why we should make these investments. And they're really not cost increase. They have a profound financial impact on the business on the back end when it's scoped and implemented properly. So we have some QR codes around the table. If anyone's interested in learning more about our C3CX workshops, there's no commitment. It's just an initial general conversation with your C3 consultant and our engineer, but we'll talk about your business. Maybe some of the challenges that you're facing, where you're trying to go, what that desired future state looks like. And then we can help scope out a customized plan for how we can take you through this process. And you're the one walking in, looking like the rock star, presenting to your board of here's what we can do and here's what it would look like. We're just the people in the background helping put these things together and bring clarity to it. So if any of you guys are interested in this, you can scan this QR code. It's also on the tables around here. And what we're going to do now is we'll take like a 5 or 10 minute break, and then we have breakout tables. It would be, I think, 2 providers at each table. That's an opportunity to learn more about the people and the experts that are in the room today. Maybe what they're seeing with other companies, but also an opportunity for you to share what your experience has been like. Any other just major questions that you have, the things that you're unclear on. Hopefully none of these vendors are pitching their product. Let us know if they are, and we'll have a little conversation with them later. But that's just an opportunity to just have a deeper understanding of what you want to do in the future with your business. So guys, I appreciate you being up here. Thank you for the panel. So yeah, we'll take like a 10-minute break, and then we'll just do 15 minutes at each table.